Good morning. I want to say thank you to my classmates for bestowing me with this honor. I appreciate y'all. Thank you to our staff and faculty and everybody here at the J School who makes everything that we do possible. And to our parents, as Dean Wasserman said, we couldn't be here without you. So without further ado, and obviously thanks to God for bringing me here and keeping me through this time. When it comes to death in my life, it seems like it's often paired with a degree or a diploma. A couple weeks after graduating high school, my uncle passed away from cancer, and a few months after graduating undergrad, my grandfather passed away from cancer as well. In one of the essays I wrote to get into Berkeley, I wrote about rubbing oil on his skin before leaving for work, which had become dry from the chemotherapy. And work at that time was just selling clothes at J. Crew. When I got into Berkeley, my grandma told me that I was going to do real good, and told me not to go out and become no Angela Davis out here. She told me to make sure I had a good jacket because the temperature drops at night. When the National Museum of African American History and Culture opened during our first semester, I flew back home to take her to the grand opening. She was born and raised in Washington, D.C. in 1938, attended an all-black high school, and did not go to college. In the museum, there's a section called Making a Way Out of No Way, and in that section, I came across a journalist by the name of Robert Churchwell. Robert Churchwell was a reporter for a newspaper called the Nashville Banner, but when he was hired in 1950, he was banned from sitting in the newsroom with white reporters, so for his first 5 years at the paper, he worked from home. Now, that isn't quite the case now. There happens to be a very, very small percentage of black people in newsrooms across the country, which is probably why my grandma's still worried about me not being able to get a good job if I wrote too many stories about black people or stories that were too black. I used to call her when I'd walk from the bus stop to my internship at the East Bay Express, and that was one of the things that she told me. This time around, death came before the degree. My grandma passed away in December after a long battle with an unknown illness. Journalists often write about deaths. One of my first articles for Oakland North was about a memorial bike ride for a 22-year-old who'd been shot and killed in downtown Oakland named Terrence McCrary. His friends called him T-Mac. The special thing about Oakland North and Rich Con, the two websites where our reporting has a home here, is that people actually read what we write. T-Mac's mother and his sister came across the article and commented. His mother said, "Thank you for writing this article. It gives me such hope to see people really cared about and loved my son. He is and was a bright light that I miss dearly." His sister said, "This was one of the sweetest things. Terrence was definitely a bright spot and amazing spirit. Thank you all for participating and making his name still ring around the Bay. Please keep his memory alive." During our time here, we've all written about death in some capacity, but specifically the death of democracy as we have come to know it in this country. I saw my classmates hit the streets with cameras, recorders, notepads, pens, some on foot and some on rollerblades, and report the hell out of Election Day and the days that followed. And before that, I witnessed the bravery of my classmates who reported on the Ghost Ship Fire, a warehouse fire here in Oakland that claimed 36 lives. There were also the 40 lives lost in the North Bay fires this fall. We write about death because we are surrounded by it. Sosin, who I'll have the opportunity to introduce in just a moment, wrote about the Golden State Killer and the murder of Stephon Clark, a 22-year-old black man, father of two, who was killed by Sacramento police in March for the Washington Post. And in 1955, it was a journalist, a black man by the name of Simeon Booker, who before becoming the Washington Post's first full-time black reporter, wrote about Emmett Till, a 14-year-old black boy who'd been brutally murdered in Mississippi. And it was a journalist who took the picture of Emmett's bloated body lying in a casket. But I also want to consider death in a different way. I mentioned that after I graduated from Northwestern with a bachelor's in broadcast journalism, I was somehow working at J. Crew. I think at some point I may have stopped believing in my dream of becoming a journalist. Life happens and death is a part of it, but death can be disorienting and depressing. But coming here for me and my classmates meant that we were putting to death that thing. What's it called? Crippling self-doubt? And any other notions or naysayers or haters that had us believing that we couldn't become journalists. We came from red states and blue states, East Coast and West Coast, Nigeria, Ethiopia, Iceland, Peru, the Netherlands. We came from teaching high schools, from working in emergency rooms and for screenwriters, from the streets as a professional bicyclist, from reporting in Santa Cruz, Massachusetts, Malawi, and Palestine. We came straight from undergrad and from, yes, getting another master's. We are here today, we are alive, and we are journalists. And now I will share with you the times that we almost died and other things we put to death from the lives of my classmate. Thank y'all for sending me something. I thought I was gonna die when I ran into Michael Pollan while carrying a dozen frosted cupcakes into my J200 class. I thought I was gonna die when I started the J200 class and went reporting in Richmond every week, especially those night school board meetings. I thought I was gonna die when I went to an investigative reporting conference in Phoenix. 120 degrees is no joke. I thought I was gonna die when I accidentally popped a bottle of champagne during Donald Trump's victory speech on election night, and the silent newsroom turned in unison to stare at me as a cork bounced off the ceiling. But then I had to explain that I was not celebrating. I was just in desperate need of a drink. I thought I was gonna die when I got tear gas for the first time on November 9, 2016, but the second and third times were okay. I thought I was gonna die when I was told to stand in silence for 5 minutes and peel an orange. I thought I was gonna die when my source threatened to sue me. I thought I was gonna die when I still had 5 hours before my deadline and Spencer Nakasako gave me 2 pieces of feedback on my latest cut to be included for my final cut. I thought I was gonna die when my trunk popped open and a bunch of lenses fell out and into the incoming traffic. Sorry, Chris. RIP to working for experience, RIP to about an acre of trees and 4 printer cartridges. Narrative writing is bad for the environment. RIP to my love of tangerines, and RIP to being a student journalist. Class of 2018, we will live and we will thrive. Yeah.